This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we've got a big update out of Georgia, which is a state that we've been tracking closely, where the state election board has passed a rule enabling members to delay certification if they simply feel that there's been fraud. The question's now gone before a judge who hasn't yet issued a ruling, but he said something important during the trial, which just happened this week. What did he say?
Yeah, so kudos, by the way, to the lawyers for the DNC who brought this case to trial. They got the Republican Party and therefore the judge to all agree that this cannot delay the certification of elections. So like they got this boxed in. The judge focused on this, but they got the RNC lawyers essentially to agree that the deadline for certification still stands. That the counties can't use this to delay certification. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the end of the case. There's still other aspects of this that are problematic. But the judge indicated that he believes that the law requires county boards to certify the results on time. And like I said, good job for the DNC's lawyers.
So if we already know that certification itself can't be delayed, then doesn't the rule kind of become moot, in that the whole point of any delay would be also to delay certification? But if they can only delay until the point where they have to certify, then isn't the whole thing kind of moot?
No, I mean, look, the devil's in the details here, right? And so let's not give the RNC too much credit, and let's not overread into what the court said. There are still other problems with this law. Part of the reason why they want to be able to rummage around documents and do all of this is to spread disinformation, right? Is to create an environment of disinformation, number one. Number two is it doesn't necessarily say they're going to certify the accurate results, right? It just says they're going to certify, right? So the RNC is being a little cagey here. Like I said, I think the DNC's lawyers did a good job in getting them partially boxed in. I think that the judge, was not clear and is going to consider, obviously, what he heard about whether he will strike down the entire reasonable inquiry rule, or whether he will simply cabin either temporally how long that reasonable inquiry can take place, which I think is very likely he does, and or whether he limits what reasonable inquiry means. What does reasonable mean? What does inquiry mean?
And does what we saw in the courtroom give any indication as to whether the judge is going to ultimately strike down this rule, or is that still up in the air?
Look, it's still up in the air in that, I always warn people, you cannot take judges' questions to mean that they are telling you how they're going to rule.
Right.
I think that on the one issue of, refusing to certify by deadlines there, I think the DNC was masterful in getting essentially concession that they were able to get. But I think everything else is like the judge's musings, the judge's thoughts, which is sometimes an indication of where the judge is going, but it's oftentimes also just a way of engaging the lawyers. So we will wait and see what the court ultimately rules.
Now, this isn't the only lawsuit against the Georgia State Election Board over controversial new rules that these three MAGA members of the Georgia State Election Board had passed. What are the other rules that they passed, and what are the status of the lawsuits against them?
Yeah, so look, these three MAGA members have done real damage. However these rules come out, they have taken up the time and the energy of the state of Georgia. They have put uncertainty into this equation. So I just want to be clear at saying at the outset that even if every one of these lawsuits prevails, they will still have done the bidding of Donald Trump, who is trying to create a cloud of uncertainty where none should exist. But there are 5 ongoing lawsuits right now. Look, they're coming from both Democrats and from Republicans. No one who is sensible on either side of the aisle thinks that these rules make sense. 2 of the lawsuits come from the DNC, the one that we were just talking about, the certification rules. The DNC is also challenging the hand counting rule, which is another one of these MAGA-inspired rules. Georgia Republicans are challenging 4 sets of rules, 2 delaying that deal with the delaying certification rules, 2 that deal with restricting drop boxes. Brian, never forget that Republicans are still at war with secure metal containers around the country, including in Ohio and including in Georgia. American Oversight, a progressive organization, says the initial board meetings violated state law, since they were not public and did not give proper notice. And finally, there is another lawsuit by some Georgia Democrats that are suing Brian Kemp, the governor, to compel him to investigate the ethics complaints against these three mega Republicans.
When Republicans are suing the Republican governor who signed SB 202 into law, I think that really goes to show that they have lost the plot a little bit here. Just a quick note, I know that you've been covering this extensively in Democracy Docket. For those who are watching right now, Democracy Docket is the free news outlet that Marc founded to focus on everything voting and elections. It's an amazing resource and especially important as we head toward this November election. So if you're not yet signed up, please do yourself a favor and sign up. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Marc, the state's Republican Attorney General and the Secretary of State have both slammed these rules and said that they're likely illegal. And even with that, is there a way that these rules could be able to stand?
They shouldn't. I mean, the Attorney General in particular is the chief law enforcement officer of the state. He is a very conservative Republican. You know, whatever Donald Trump may say about Brian Kemp or whatever he may say, the governor, or whatever he says about Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, you know, the Attorney General has managed to keep himself in good stead with MAGA Republicans because he is a very conservative Republican. And he has said that these rules are illegal. Now, would I like to see the Republican Attorney General and the Secretary of State actually do something about it? Like, for example, intervene in this case and as a plaintiff or bring their own lawsuit? Absolutely, right? If the Secretary of State and the Attorney General think these rules are illegal, how about they sue over them? They haven't done that, but still they have issued statements. The Attorney General issued a document on this front that's being cited by the DNC in their lawsuits, but they are doing, I guess, more than the least they could do, but certainly not as much as
not much more. Yeah, not much more than that. Especially given the fact that if it was that they have certainly sued Democrats for much more mild offenses than what the Republicans on the Georgia State Election Board are doing right now. Will we get a final decision on all of these lawsuits before the election?
Absolutely. I think the Fulton County judge who heard the trial made very, very clear he was moving this case quickly, and I expect we will get a ruling any day now in that case, and I expect all of these cases to be resolved at the trial court level in the next couple of weeks, and then the question is, where do they go from there? Do they go up to the Court of Appeals and then the state Supreme Court in Georgia? But I think the Georgia courts understand the importance of getting certainty around this, and so I do expect all these to be resolved before the election.
And let's finish off with this. Staying in Georgia, your law firm intervened this week in a case that was brought by Republicans in one of the most important battleground counties in the entire state. Can you tell us about that case and why your team opted to intervene?
Yeah, look, this is a very important case. This is a case in DeKalb County, Georgia, where the Republican Party has filed a lawsuit to remove from the polls hundreds of voters through a mass challenge. And the county properly said they would not do it because it would violate the federal quiet period, the National Voter Registration Act provision. But these Republicans in the county are undeterred. And we're seeing this as a pattern around the country. Federal law protects voters in exactly this circumstance, but we are seeing in state after state after state, including in Georgia, obviously, but also in Pennsylvania, in Nevada, and elsewhere, Republicans seem to either want to test this law or just think they can blow through it. But they're going to lose this case. I'm very proud of the work my law firm is doing here, and we're going to win.
Well, again, for those watching right now, a small step that we all can take to show some appreciation for the work that you and your team are doing, including in cases like this one, again, is to sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.